This is Minecraft. I've seen videos online showcasing Minecraft with ultra realistic graphics, but I've never seen anyone actually start a playthrough with these mods installed. So today I installed a couple of mods that totally overhaul Minecraft's terrain generation, and mods like Conquest Reforged that add over 14,000 new blocks to the game, with the goal of starting a fresh new Minecraft world. Alright, welcome back to our fresh start Minecraft world. It's a beautiful evening here. So I think today we're going to start off by redecorating the house just a little bit. And a little bit later on, I actually want to make a pathway all the way back to the tavern from our house through the woods here. So I decided I want to actually clear out some of the trees over here just so we can get a better view of the house from a distance. And I really love the falling tree mod that I have installed here. Alright, now as we can see, we have a much clearer view of the house from the front here. And it's just starting to turn daytime. I'm actually such a huge fan of still life and lithosphere. The terrain generation in this little mod pack is so beautiful. So like I was saying today, I want to actually work on the house a little bit. So taking a look inside the house, I really love the layout of this house, but I think it needs a little bit more decoration. So let's start placing in more furniture. So the first thing I want to do is actually add some cabinets right here next to the fireplace. I just feel like this helps bring the space in a little bit more. I think a fireplace isn't really complete unless we add some deer antlers just above it here. I feel like that looks just a lot more lodgy and homey. And then for the dining room here, I think I want to actually get rid of the longer dining room table and switch it for these rounded tables like this. I feel like the rounded tables just give this space a little bit more of an interesting kind of feel here. And I think a little bit later on, I actually want to head off towards those mountains there and see what's over here, because we haven't really explored the woods that are right next to our house. So I think for this, I actually want to go with the apothecary little bookshelf here, and then we can just take these extra cabinets and just toss them over here. So another project I actually want to start working on is actually the staircase here. I think it'd be really cool if we had a staircase going down, so we can definitely work on that a little bit later here. So I think one of the best things about mods like Conquest Reforged is that you can really nerd out with the details and just add tons and tons of detail to every little part of the build, which is my favorite thing to do. So some additional detailing we can add in is actually these supports along the wall here. And I feel like this adds just a nice little archway between our entranceway and the rest of the house here. I feel like this just makes it seem a lot more realistic. So something I really love about Conquest Reforged is all the different furniture that it adds to the game. So another thing I want to add in is actually an area rug just right here. I feel like this helps the entranceway feel a little bit more warm and inviting. And then what's cool about these rounded tables is if we right click them, it actually adds some food and tankards on the top here, which is really, really nice. That's definitely the look I want to go for here. And with some of these extra rugs, we can just kind of add these in here. Yeah, perfect. Now I feel like the house is a lot more better decorated. And a little bit later on, I actually want to start a pretty big project on this world. But before we get into that, I just want to say that if you're enjoying the video so far, to please check if you're subscribed. It only takes 1 second to do so, and I would really appreciate it because these videos take a long time to make, and I'm trying to hit 15,000 subscribers. Alrighty, let's get back to the video. And what I want to do is actually something like this. And the reason I want to do this is because I want to take what we did here with these and just kind of bring that theming over to the living room here. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to find a way to connect these beams to these ones without it looking kind of awkward, because these have to be on a full block. So for now, we're gonna have to just leave it like that. And then let's do the same thing up here. So for these, I'm gonna actually take some of these stripped dark oaks that we cut down earlier. Again, just kind of bring it up like that with our pillars. And something kind of interesting I was thinking we could do is we could make our own railing here using these vertical beams that we have. This will kind of help theme everything out. I feel like that looks a lot better than the fence that we had up here for the railing as well. Perfect. Yeah, this looks fantastic. So I want to actually continue the beams on the second floor here, just because I feel like it adds a little bit of variation to the build. Makes it look a little bit more interesting this way. It'd be nice to have a bread plate right up here. So what's kind of interesting is I like to use these oak planks to sort of cover up where the floor is stone, just because I feel like it looks better if it's all wood instead of it being intermittently sparsed with stone. And now we have some extra cabinets we can kind of throw around here. I think we can just kind of place these in the bedroom here. Place our lights back. All right, perfect. Now I feel like our home looks a lot better with these extra little details that we've thrown in here. And I really love the way that the manor house looks, especially during the daytime with the chimney up top. And a little bit later on, we're actually going to go adventure out in the woods. But before we do that, there's actually this really nice open space underneath the house here. And I want to turn this spot into sort of a little horse stable is my idea here. And I was kind of looking at this area, and what we can do is actually continue our theming here with the vertical beams like this. Since we have some extra ones, we can just kind of throw these in here. I feel like that just adds another level of detail down on the bottom floor here. So the idea for this little under area here is I want it to be a little hitching area for your horses. So I'm just going to add some hitches here. And what's really cool about Conquest Reforged is the different objects that are actually in the game here. So we have these water troughs here that the horses can drink from, as well as things like these little, I really like these hanging hay troughs. These look really, really cool. So yeah, the idea is you'd be able to ride your horses through the entranceway here and just kind of leave them parked under here. So this is kind of like a carport, but for horses. And we also have this little extra section over here that's underneath the balcony. So what I'm going to do is actually clear this out a little bit. And what we can do with this is actually turn this into some extra hay storage here. So that way the horses have some hay that they can eat from. I really like this section. This is actually kind of cool. So I have some of these hanging hay troughs here, and what I'm going to do is just add these on the corner. We have some of these extra hay feeds here. So what I'm going to do to make this area look a little bit better is actually add in some stone like this. Now it doesn't look so overgrown down here. It actually looks like it's part of the house. And I want to do the same thing underneath here. I feel like it would just make sense if these were actually stone instead of dirt. Now we can just fill the rest in with dirt. And with some of this extra dirt, I actually want to fill in the ground here. Oh, it looks like we actually have some phantoms spawning in here. So that's kind of our cue to go to sleep here. Yeah, here we go. Now we have a proper horse stable at the manor house here. And it's actually a beautiful day, so let's head on out and explore the surrounding woods and mountains. So I'm not quite sure what I want to actually build today, but maybe as we explore we'll find some interesting locations and we can start thinking about what we want to build. I really can't get over just walking through the woods. It honestly feels like I'm playing Skyrim. It looks like we have some zombies out here. So these woods are actually really, really dangerous, even during the daytime, just because they're so shaded. So the mobs have plenty of shade to hide from the sun. I think I want to head off in this direction and head towards these mountains. I'm really in love with the terrain generation in this mod. And while we're making our way over to the mountain, I've gotten a lot of comments from people saying that they enjoy watching my videos in the background. So I'm always curious to hear what you guys are working on, if it's school or if you're playing video games. It always makes my day to hear what you guys got going on. These forests are so dense, it's actually really, really fun to walk through them. We're getting closer now. I've actually noticed in my analytics that a lot of you guys actually enjoy watching my videos on TV, which to me is the biggest compliment. You definitely know you've made it as a YouTuber when people are watching you on TV, so I really appreciate it. Alright, here we are at the base of the mountain, and these definitely look interesting. I'm not sure which block this is, so let's pick some up. So it's saying this is worn light gray plaster, and that's actually really good. I'm going to pick up a bunch of this. So I'm going to actually vein mine a couple stacks of the light gray plaster here, and we can definitely use this in some buildings later on. Oh wow. Let's make our way to the top of the mountain. I'm really curious to see what the view is going to look like from up here. But this is really cool. I'm actually really excited that we found some light gray plaster. Plaster is a really cool building material. So like I was saying, I wasn't really too sure what I want to actually build today. So I really love the view from up here. We can actually see the ocean. We can see some of the other cliffs. And we can even see Bear's Den from up here, which is really, really cool. I love mods like Distant Horizons because it really lets you see the entire scale of the world here. We can't quite see the house from up here just because there's so many trees covering everything, but it should be right about there. And what's crazy with this world is it's so big that we haven't even explored off in this direction yet. Holy cow. This looks crazy. Look at this. So we have even more mountains off in that distance. I really love the valley here too. It really helps separate all the mountains. And I think maybe off in that direction is actually an ocean as well. Yeah, I can't get over how beautiful this world actually looks. So I think I'm going to make my way back home. Actually, off in that direction is where our spawn was. Maybe we could think about building a village off in that direction. That'd be really, really cool. But I could literally just spend hours walking through the woods here. So it's actually really, really fun. We can actually start working on maybe a little bit of a pathway through the woods too. So we just took out a creeper right there. And as you can see, there's plenty of Endermen. We're gonna have to actually start killing Endermen because I do want to find a stronghold eventually. I think having an Elytra in this world would be really, really good, just because of how large it is. It takes a solid, I would say 7 minutes to walk between all the builds that we have. So having the Elytra and fireworks would be really nice. I really love the lighting in the Bliss shaders. It has a nice bloom sort of look, especially on the top of the mountains there. You can see that the sun is kind of bouncing off the ice up there. And this is actually kind of cool. We can see the chimney from our house here, as well as Bear's Den, which is our watchtower. So walking past our house here, we actually have this beautiful little mountain over here. It's a little bit too late in the day to adventure over there, but I think that would be such a cool spot to actually build some sort of castle, or maybe even a ruined castle would be really cool. So I think tomorrow we'll actually head over here and see if we can find a good place to start building. I really, really love the way this world looks during sunset time. Alright, here we are back at home. And eventually I do want to find a horse so that way we can saddle them up here. That would make traversing the world so much faster. So this room right now is kind of acting as my storage room. And I think I want to actually probably fill it up with more chests and maybe barrels and decorations. But I really like how cozy our house is. Coming back home after a long day of adventuring, seeing the fireplace, having some seats here that you can eat at. It's really, really nice. I would love to actually start filling my world up with NPCs. I think that would be really cool to have them all walk around. So currently it's nighttime and I want to actually decide which room is going to be my bedroom. I have 3 bedrooms to choose from. I think this one has the best view, but I'll kind of tour the other rooms for you guys so you can see them. This room is towards the front of the house. Has a nice little overlook into the gate, out into the woods. I really like how spacious these bedrooms are. And then up here is kind of, this is definitely going to be the guest room because it's the smaller of the 3 rooms. And this also looks out towards the woods. So I'm thinking I kind of want to just leave these rooms as bedrooms. And I think I'll go with this room for our bedroom. This one's the biggest and it has the nicest views. You can actually see the Hungry Bear down there, which is our tavern. Maybe we'll make our way there a little bit later on. So it's a beautiful new morning here in the world. And then a little bit later on, let's actually make our way to that mountain over there and start building something. So I'm really excited to actually see what's over on these mountains. I think this would be the perfect place to build some sort of ruined castle. That's sort of what I'm in the mood to build at the moment right now. And I love walking through the woods during the day. You can see the woods are nice and gloomy. Plenty of zombies kind of chasing us down here as well, just because they have plenty of shade to hide in. Yeah, just walking through the woods really makes me feel like I'm playing a totally different game, like Kingdom Come Deliverance or maybe even Skyrim. And I love the contrast between how shaded the woods are and how nice and bright these open fields are. It just makes the world seem so much more interesting. So I actually just found some wool, which is actually really, really nice. Hopefully that means there's some, oh, perfect, there is some sheep over here. All right, so let's just kind of note down this area. So this is actually perfect. I was looking for some sheep because we're needing more wool to make beds and paintings. So I'm actually really excited we found these guys. So I have some wheat in my inventory, and I think what we're gonna do is actually lead the sheep back home once we get done exploring this mountain here. So that's really, really helpful. And what's really cool is we can see Bear's Den from here as well. So I wanna make my way to the top of this mountain here and see what the view looks like and see if we can scope out a nice flat area to build in. So we just made it to the top. There's Bear's Den over there, and our house is off in that direction. I think this little flat spot right down there would be a good spot to build our castle, but let me see what the actual top of the mountain looks like. So here's what the top looks like. There's more mountains off in that direction, and there's the coastline. Yeah, I think this mountain is going to be the perfect little spot for our ruined castle. So ideally, I want to be able to see the ruined castle from the tavern down below, from the watchtower, and from our house. So I'm thinking if we build it on this side, that'll be perfect for us. So I think to give our build the most visibility, we'll actually need to build it right here in this little patch of grass and trees. I think the castle is going to be mostly out of limestone cobble, so we can actually just start mining this area right here. And you can already see the clearing these trees out here. The view is really starting to open up here. And this is going to be so cool. This is why I really love mods like Distant Horizons, because we can build these kind of like landscapes for ourselves. And while I'm building here, I did want to just really thank you guys so much. Recently, I hit 10,000 subscribers on the channel, and I couldn't be more excited. I feel like 10,000 subscribers is when things really start opening up on YouTube, and I really wanted to thank you guys so much. Alright, so let's actually start mining downward a little bit. That way we can gather up some materials. So the castle here is definitely going to be more of a facade sort of build. So it's not going to be the most detailed or maybe like decorated thing, but it's going to look really cool from a distance. So simply, I'm just going to mine down here, and we're starting to find coal as well. And if you guys are curious about all the mods that I have installed, I'll leave a link in the, I'll leave my full mod list as well as the world seed in the description, so you guys can feel free to check that out. And I also filmed a short little tutorial on how to actually install all these mods in the description, so feel free to check that out if you'd like. So for now, I'm just going to clear out this little area down here. We're going to need plenty of stone. So the vein mining mod I'm using is called Diggus Maximus, which as you guys can see is allowing me to very quickly clear out the mountain down here. And I want to just make myself a little quarry. And we're also going to grab all this iron as well, which is yeah. And we're getting plenty of coal here as well, so this is awesome. And I really wanted to thank you guys so much for all the support I've been getting on the channel and the series. I was really excited to see that you guys enjoy these more like long form chill type of videos. It always makes my day when I get comments saying, oh, I was watching this video while I was eating or while I was like studying. Comments like that really make my day, so I really appreciate it. And we're getting plenty of iron, which is nice because we are quickly running through our diamond tools here. I think when we make our way back home, I want to actually start building a proper mine shaft in our home, so that way we can quickly gather materials. So we have plenty of limestone cobble, and the sun is just starting to set here. So since it's too late to actually head back home, I'm going to just start lighting up the immediate area here. And kind of the good thing about it being nighttime is we get a perfect view of Bear's Den and our home. And we even have some sheep here, so maybe we should make some shears and create ourselves a little bed. Alright, so let's start cooking up the iron that we have here. And I'm really excited to see how this castle is going to turn out once we have it built up here. This is really going to give us just even more depth to our world, and it'll give us a nice view from the house and from the watchtower over here, because we're going to need to make just a bed for ourselves. And eventually I want to lead these sheep back home. That way we can make ourselves a little sheep farm. So something I like doing is I like to get a outside perspective on my builds. That way I can just mentally plan out where I want everything to go. And this is going to sound kind of weird, but I really want to just start roughly outlining where these torches are. Kind of where the light of the torches is. That's where I want to actually build. Looks like we're already finding some creepers up here as well, since it is nighttime. So now that we have a rough little outline, what I like to do is actually start filling in the corners of the castle, because the corners are really going to be sort of the high point of the build. Alright, so all I did with the outline of the castle is I just sort of followed around the terrain, and now what I'm going to start doing is actually filling in the corners. Since the castle is going to be in a state of disrepair, I think it'd be kind of nice if the walls are a little bit uneven. So the goal with the castle is it's going to be a backdrop mainly for decoration, but we can also make it semi-safe, so that way if we need to stay up here, we'll have a bed that we can sleep at. So for something like a ruined castle, I really like to come in and just start filling in the corners. I like making the corners the highest points of the build, just because I feel like this gives it that ruined castle look and feel. And since it is going to be our little outpost up here, we're going to have to start lighting it up a little bit better. So it's just starting to turn day, and so far we have a beautiful little outline for what I'm wanting here. And what I want to do is actually give our build a little bit more height. So instead of making the whole build one height, what I'm going to do is sort of build a little tower off in this corner here, because I want to give this castle a little bit of verticality, which is what's going to help it stand out, especially as we look at it from farther distances. Another way I can kind of think about this tower, or another way I can kind of think about this castle, is it's going to be a landmark that we can sort of see, whether we're out on the island out there, or from the watchtower, or from our house. So we're going to have to actually get ourselves a lot more stone here. I think I'm just going to end up using my my entire pickaxe here, But thankfully we're finding so much iron that I'll be able to quickly replace my my diamond pickaxe here with iron tools. And what's kind of funny is I've spent so much time on this world just building and decorating that I haven't even made it to the we do have a ruined nether portal, but I think what I want to actually do is maybe take the obsidian from that and move it to closer to our house. All right, with our pickaxe done, luckily our iron is cooked up here, so we can just replace all of this and make some more tools. All right, so now with our stone, I'm just gonna build up this section of the castle. So originally I was gonna build just a single tower, but I was kind of thinking about how I'm wanting the castle to look from a distance, and I'm gonna have to actually make it a lot bigger than I originally intended. So what I'm gonna do is this little shape that I have here, I'm gonna have to actually fill in this entire thing with stone. And it's gonna start off really blocky at first. Once we get this entire thing built up, what I can actually start doing is detailing it out a little bit, adding some archways, adding different walkways around the place, and then that'll help make this stand out against the distant horizons here. So what I actually decided to do is I want to cut out some of these walls here. And the reason for that is I was kind of looking at some reference images on what ruined castles sort of look like, and they're always missing walls like this. So thankfully we have Diggus Maximus, which lets us like very quickly mine out some of these walls here. And now from a distance, I feel like the castle looks a lot more like a ruined castle instead of just a block. I think eventually I do want to turn this little area into its own kind of tower, so I'm just going to start outlining sort of where I want some walls for it. And this is the first time I've ever done a build like this where I actually have, I'm almost making my own little backdrop for the world, because this castle is really just going to act as a little background piece, almost as if I'm making my own LODs if I was a game designer, or if I was like a background artist and I wanted to make the world appear larger than it actually is. So it's kind of hard to tell what the castle's going to look like from a distance, but I feel like we're going to have to actually make it just a little bit taller. So what I'm going to do is come up on this side and just sort of staircase my way up, and this will give our castle like nice jagged walls without it costing us a whole lot of stone. I think if I was to make the castle fully detailed, it would take so much time just because of how kind of big it is. And I really want this back wall to be nice and tall, so I'm gonna have to actually build it up a little bit here. So I want it to actually stick out past the what's kind of below it here. And just to make it a little bit more walkable, I'm gonna actually add a second floor here that we can walk on a little bit easier. And a little bit later on, I actually want to start building a pathway from our house to the tavern. And I'm really curious to see what this castle is going to look like on the hillside as we're making our way to the tavern. All right, perfect. Now we have a second floor, and I'm just going to staircase my way down and clean up some of the edges here. So it's kind of nice how the terrain generates naturally. I have a lot of like gravel and slate sort of around the build here. So to my eye, this almost looks like it's actually part of the castle, but it's just like ruined, I guess, if that makes sense. It almost looks like rubble to me. So that kind of takes a little bit of work off of my hands. And now all I want to do is actually fill this in, because this is going to be its own little tower. So now I want to just kind of cut out some windows here, or I guess where windows would have been in this castle. So I feel like this will help give the castle a little bit more depth and make it look a little bit more interesting. So since the castle is in ruins, or mostly in ruins, I think it'd be kind of cool if we turn this little tower into our temporary hideout here. So that way, if we ever want to come back up here, we have a safe little stop that we can stay at for the night. I don't really see myself spending a whole lot of time in the castle here, but I think it would be nice if we had a temporary little house that we could stay at if we needed to. And to add even more detail, we're going to actually throw in our stone cutter. That way we can place some arches on the windows here. I think adding arches to these windows just gives the build a lot more character and makes it look a little bit more interesting as well. And I still can't get over the view of the mountains that we have over there. So I feel like the castle is really starting to come together now. So now that we have a basic shape of the castle, I want to actually start adding some light decorations before we move on. So of course I want to add some vines kind of growing off the roof here. I think this will really help give our castle that overgrown look that we're wanting to go for here. So already I feel like just by adding the leaves on, even on just this pillar here, the castle looks so much better. And we definitely want to add some on this side as well, just because this part is like a huge just stone pillar. So just by adding leaves, I feel like the castle looks so much better without it taking a whole lot of time to do. So now that we have most of the castle done, or at least the basic outline of it, I think it's time we actually come in with some of the more detailed blocks that Conquest Reforged adds. So what I want to do with the stone cutter here is kind of come in here and grab some heavily overgrown limestone cobble. And what I'm going to do is just make myself a huge mix of different blocks that we can use to decorate with. So for me, this is when Conquest Reforged really starts to become fun, is when you can add in the details. So things I like doing is adding little windowsills, just like this. I feel like it's a small detail, but it really helps the build feel a little bit more, just that much more special. In areas where the blocks look kind of plain, what I like to do is actually add fake windows, or I guess window facades like this. And we can just do that all the way up like that. And this to me looks a little bit more interesting than if it was just a flat wall. So in areas where I feel like the walls look kind of blocky, we can fix that pretty easily just by using vertical quarters like this. And that adds just kind of like a little cutout into the wall there. And we can just sort of fill in the corners doing stuff like this. Definitely a smaller detail, but I feel like it just makes the build look a lot more like actually run down. So I'm gonna kind of cut out some of the corners here. Just come in with my vertical. And doing stuff like this is where I have the most fun with mods like Conquest Reforged, just because I love nerding out with the details like this. So to me, this wall is looking kind of plain because it's mostly stone. So what we can do is let's just kind of cut out some of it and replace it with our heavily overgrown cobblestone here. And I feel like this gives the build a much more textured and varied kind of look. Definitely fits the overgrown aesthetic that we're going for here. So I was kind of looking at this wall and I noticed it looked pretty plain. So I'm just going to do a similar thing where I cut out some archways here. And I feel like this makes the wall look a lot more interesting. And again, areas where I feel like it looks really blocky, we can come in with our quarter slabs and just throw those in the corner there. So I made a bunch more cobblestone quarter slabs because I feel like these really help. Adding in the corners like this really helps the build feel a lot more run down to me, so I'm just going to kind of throw these absolutely everywhere. And I made myself a couple of stairs that we can just kind of throw in at the top here. This will just kind of give the walls a little bit more of a rounded look, especially on edges of the build like this. Then I'm going to take the last three I have here and just throw it right on top. Yeah, so far I'm really happy with how this castle is kind of turning out. It's taking a little bit more time than I would like it to, but I think it's kind of worth it. And we have more quarter slabs that we can throw in here, just along the windows. And this to me is when Conquest Reforged really becomes fun. It's just adding little details like this. So another use with the quarter slabs is we can actually make it look like the wall is like broken like this. So I'm just going to add this along the edges of the walls. And that effect looks really good, especially when you do it on exterior walls like this. Now it gives these walls a little edge to them. Alright, I'm really happy with how the castle is turning out. Now I want to take the last of these limestone cobble and actually turn these into a mixture of cobble slabs and vertical slabs like this. Now the reason I love vertical slabs is because we can add them on the corners of the wall like this. And it just makes the corners look a little bit better in my opinion. Another thing we can do with vertical slabs like this is we can just kind of lightly texture out our walls here just to give them a more jagged appearance. Kind of bring some parts of the wall out. And it's a really small detail, but I feel like it makes this wall look so much better. Especially on really large flat walls like this. It's a really subtle detail, but I feel like it adds up. And I also made a bunch of these cobblestone slabs. And these kind of act like snow layers from vanilla Minecraft. So what I'm going to do is actually just start really haphazardly and randomly kind of layering these on top of the walls. And this is going to give the walls an even more uneven and jagged look. These add like a nice spired sort of effect to the roof here. We can even do stuff like that on the roof right up here. Again, it's another one of those really small details, but the more detail you can put into the build and the more depth you can put into things, I feel like the better it's going to look overall. And again, this is sort of a long-term Minecraft project for me, so I don't really mind spending time building like this. And what's kind of cool is the slabs almost act as a blend between stairs and full blocks like this. So you can have these like huge variations in the blocks. The sunset looks so cool over the castle ruins here. I would love to hear your guys' castle name suggestions. And if I end up going with your castle name, I'll give you a shout out in the next video. And bonus points if your name has sort of lore behind it, like why is it that this castle has been left in ruins here? With all these extra slabs, I'm just going to kind of throw these around the roof up here. And there we go, that's all of them. We have a bunch of these vertical slabs left over, so I'm just going to throw these up here as well. Kind of the cool thing about doing a ruined castle build is there's not like a right way or a wrong way to do it. It's just whatever you feel like doing. Yeah, I really love how the castle looks, especially at nighttime with the moon rising over the top. And it's kind of nice that we have a temporary little shelter here as well. You can see Bear's Den from there and our house. I'm really curious to see what the ruins are going to look like from a distance. Alright, it's a beautiful new morning. Now with the castle mostly complete, I want to actually make my way back home, and I want to create a little pathway from our home to the Angry Bear Tavern down there. And on my way back home, I'm going to actually grab some sheep with the wheat that we have in our inventory. As you can see, we already have zombies coming out after us. And eventually I do want to build a pathway from our home all the way up to the castle there. I think the funnest part for me about Minecraft is adding lore to my world. So I love to have different named locations kind of spread throughout. Alright, let's lead our little sheep all the way to the homestead here. It'll be nice to finally have sheep at our home. I think for now I'm just going to kind of let them roam around the house freely, but having a steady source of wool is going to be really, really nice. And then when we find a better spot for a farm, then I'll build something. Alright, here we are back at home, and we have our sheep safely within the fence here. And it feels nice to actually be back home, especially since we've been out in the woods so long. Yeah, you can see the castle just off in the distance there, and it's kind of nice we cut out these trees a little bit earlier, so we actually have a better view of them. Let's bring both the sheep together here. And we do have to actually make ourselves a farm because our food supply is running pretty low. I want to make a trail from our house all the way to the Angry Bear Tavern here. So I'm actually so excited with how everything is turning out right now. Seeing the ruined castle off in the distance as well as the watchtower. This world is really starting to turn into something special. So for the pathway between our house and the tavern, all I'm going to do is kind of cut out little blotches of dirt and just fill it in with limestone cobble, just like this. This not only allows us to sort of save on resources because we don't have to do the whole thing out of cobblestone, but it also gives our pathway a nice overgrown look. Because Conquest Reforged uses nice, beautiful connected textures, it helps our pathway kind of blend in around it. So the first little problem I'm running into is actually this hill that we have right outside of our house is very steep. And I'm not quite sure how I want to do that right now, so we'll kind of make our way back to that. So the idea with the pathway here is I want it to start off very basic, and then what I can do is once we have a basic little outline, I can actually come in with more detail blocks like our vertical slabs and really start blending it into the pathway. So it's kind of nice is since the woods are so dangerous, this pathway is actually very much necessary, I feel like. But I love walking through the woods at night, even though it is very dangerous for us. So I think this pathway will allow a semi-safe passage through the woods here. I think wherever I place these torches is kind of a nice rough little spot of where I want to place the cobblestone. I don't want the cobblestone too close together. I do want it to be very sparse. I think it's kind of funny, but I really do like the fact that the woods are so dangerous, especially at nighttime. It gives our world a nice sense of adventure. I feel like it'd be kind of boring if the world was perfectly safe at nighttime. So I think to make it a little bit safer for ourselves, we're just gonna go and sleep at the tavern for the night, and then we can actually start working on our pathway in the morning time when it's a little bit safer from mobs. But you can see there is just plenty of creepers in the woods at nighttime. But along the way, I'm just gonna clear out some of the grass that's here. And thankfully at the tavern, we actually have plenty of limestone cobble and other resources that we can use to build. Oh yeah, I love seeing the moon shining through the trees, especially at nighttime. And here we are, back at the tavern. It actually feels so nice to see this in the woods, especially with how dangerous it is out here. Eventually I am going to have to build a proper little fence around the tavern here, but for now I'm happy with the hungry bear. Here's our dogs. And it actually feels really nice stopping in at the tavern, especially with all that building we did up at the castle and making our way through the woods at nighttime. This would be such a welcome sight. Alright, let's sleep through the night here. Alright, so it's a beautiful new morning here. Now it's time we get this pathway built up here. Alright, so now I've dotted out some patches of cobblestone dotted out throughout the pathway here. Now what I want to do is actually start detailing things out. And I'm going to do this with a mix of different blocks that we have here. So the first one I want to do is dirt slabs. And these are part of countered terrain slabs. And of course regular stone slabs as well. And then for an additional detail, we can take our loamy dirt, throw it into the stone cutter here, and we can make even smaller dirt slabs. And same with our limestone cobble, we can throw those in there as well. And now what I want to do is actually just start making nice sloped gradual pathways here. And then just like we can do it with the dirt, we can also take some limestone here and just kind of build up little patches of the cobblestone here. And I feel like this is just going to make the pathway actually seem like it's made out of stone rather than it just being a flat texture that's in the ground. And I love doing stuff like this. I love adding little details like this in the world just because I feel like it really helps the world feel like it's more lively. And I like the idea of us having a nice gradual pathway through the woods here. And what's even kind of cool is we can make these like little stone slabs into like kind of staircases that go up. And if you guys have any more ideas of what we can throw into the world, let me know. I'm always open to suggestions. Alright, now we're finally almost home. And I think I also want to actually come in here and replace some of these torches with like actual lanterns. I think that would look really, really nice. So now that I have some regular stone slabs I can use, what I want to actually do is start staircasing my way up this steep little hill here. And you can see at nighttime the woods are actually extremely dangerous with just the amount of mobs that we have to face here. So we actually have a pretty big crowd of zombies here. But I think it's actually starting to turn daytime, thankfully. So if we lead them out here into the open, that'll be nice. Wow, that's crazy. I've never actually seen this many zombies before in a single like stack. I feel like I'm playing like Black Ops 3 zombies or something. So like I was saying, all I want to do is actually come in here, kind of cut out where I want these stairs to go. And then I'm feeling a little bit lazy, so I'm just going to use regular stone slabs. And I think in some of the areas where it's a little bit too steep to do regular slabs, I'm gonna actually go for doing stairs. But let me get rid of this creeper here. But you can kind of see I just sort of blotched out where I want the pathway to be. So one of the cool things that Conquest Reforged actually adds is we can take our loamy dirt here and we can actually make dirt stairs, which is kind of funny. The dirt stairs will be super helpful, especially for this more steep section right in front of our house here. Especially areas right here that are like really kind of compact. This is going to be super, super helpful. Alright, perfect. Now we have a nice gradual staircase all the way up to our house. So for this next part, I actually decided to grab a bunch of stone shovels because I want to actually start connecting these little patches with pathways. Pathway blocks isn't something I really actually think about using too often, but I was kind of thinking about it. It would look really nice just kind of having random little pathway blocks to kind of cut through everything here. Something I never understood about the actual pathway blocks is why they actually really eat up the shovel's durability. Yeah, now I feel like we have a nice mixed kind of pathway here, just going down everything here. So one of the cool things about countered terrain slabs is you can actually right click them and they'll turn into dirt pathway, which is really, really nice. I feel like this will help us keep on track, especially as we're like running through at nighttime, having like an actual pathway block to follow. And as you can see, we already went through our first shovel here. I made a couple shovels here, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to actually get us all the way to the tavern. Just gonna kind of fill in these little blocks here. So kind of the cool thing with the, well, there's a zombie, baby zombie there with a shovel for some reason. So I think since it's nighttime, I'm just gonna kind of like, oh yeah, we definitely don't have enough shovels to do the entire pathway. Actually, when we killed that baby villager, he dropped an iron shovel, which is kind of nice. That might actually be what we need to complete this. But the cool thing with the pathway blocks is since it's like technically a layer, we actually get a nice kind of change in depth between our pathway here. And I think on our way back, once we reach the tavern, I'm going to make a couple of stone walls. And then we're going to make some lanterns as well. That way we can have we can replace some of these torches with lanterns instead. I think that'll look so much better. Definitely got to be careful with creepers though. That's going to be the main downside of building out here at nighttime. So actually, we're not going through the shovels too badly right now. I think we might be able to pull this off. Yeah, I feel like these pathway blocks are the perfect like separation between the stone layers that we have here. Again, we have to be careful with all the mobs that we have attacking us. So this is definitely like the one of the more dangerous projects I've been doing. I feel like once we have this complete, our world will feel really, really nice because everything's going to be nice and connected for us. Quickly clear out all this grass here. I want to actually give this pathway like a proper name. So if you guys have any name suggestions, let me know. I love to give my world like actual lore, just because I feel like it makes the world more special when everything has a storyline behind it. So I definitely missed some pathway back there, just because I'm trying to not get killed by creepers here, but we actually made it mostly to the tavern here. I think this iron shovel will get us all the way there. Yeah, this is perfect actually. And here we are back at the tavern. That like zombie baby, that baby zombie we killed earlier actually came in clutch with the stone shovel here. All right, let's complete the pathway here. Perfect. And we're eating our last cooked pork chop. Yeah, this is awesome. Now we have a nice winding pathway through the woods here, leading all the way from the tavern to our house. So it's another beautiful day here. Before we make our way back home, I actually want to take a look at the ruined castle from Bear's Den, which is our watchtower over here. But I'm really excited that we actually got the pathway done. It was kind of a long project and it was really dangerous going through those woods at nighttime, but I feel like it's so worth it. And you know what, we're gonna actually kill these pigs that are stuck in the boat here, because we need more pork chops. Oh wow, yeah, we can actually kind of see the ruins from down here. Oh yeah, that is so cool. It actually kind of blends in with the mountain, but that's really, really nice. I was hoping we'd be able to see the pathway between our house and the tavern, but we can't quite see it with all the tree coverage here. But at least we can see our ruined castle. We might have to come back to Bear's Den at nighttime and actually see what that looks like at night. But I'm really, really excited with how this world is turning out right now. Alright, so now what I'm wanting to do is just intermittently spread some lanterns along the pathway here. I kind of want them nicely spaced out. I don't want it to be too cluttered. I feel like having, even though it's kind of a simple build, I feel like having lanterns on the wall just looks so much better than torches, and it really gives it that pathway look. And kind of along the way, I'm also getting rid of some of the torches, but we may have to actually, we may end up actually having to come back in here and replacing these. So I'm really excited to see how this pathway is going to turn out, especially at nighttime. I think the lanterns are really going to look nice. I feel like this world has such a nice ambience too. So one of the mods I have installed pretty recently is falling leaves. So as you can see, some of the tree leaves are falling down here. Even though it is daytime, we still have plenty of zombies that we have to kind of worry about. I definitely like giving my world a more moody sort of look, which is kind of why I'm getting rid of some of the torches that are here. Even though it's going to make the pathway a little bit more dangerous, I think it'll add to the aesthetic, so it's kind of worth it. Here we are. Definitely got to be careful with this creeper. So something I just realized is we haven't even explored off in this direction yet. So I want to definitely get rid of these creepers while we're down here. Creepers are definitely our biggest enemy right now. But I think with the pathway done, I'll feel a lot safer actually sprinting from our house back to the tavern. And I think we actually made the perfect amount of walls and lanterns here. So we're back home just in time for sunset. Let's catch it from the balcony here. Feels so good to be back home. I love this home at nighttime. It has such a cozy feel to me. Gosh, yeah. Look at the ruins from down here. It looks so cool. That's actually exactly what I was wanting. Just something off in the distance to fill up that mountain. You know what? It's a nice rainy night. Let's go and let's walk our way back to the tavern now that we have the lanterns kind of placed down. And we have a couple of extra lanterns too. Alright, this will be so nice, making our way through the pathway. Yeah, the lanterns look so much better than torches. Kind of the torches that I missed along the way, I'm going to grab those. But this looks so, so cool. I'm actually really excited with how this world is turning out right now. Minecraft's definitely not one of those games that you can rush through. I feel like it's best enjoyed if you just kind of take your time with it. I think this is one of the reasons why I love having our builds so far apart, because now we have this kind of little dangerous trek through the woods, but the pathway looks fantastic, especially at nighttime. We'll have to sprint our way through here, but I think having the lanterns hanging off the trees there look really nice. But this is like the perfect vibe. It's raining, it's nighttime. This is kind of what it would be like if we were adventuring to the tavern during a nice stormy night. The leaves falling down. Looks so, so good. Yeah, this looks perfect. It's like just the right amount of overgrown with the cobblestone here. Kind of sprint our way through here. Oh yeah, this is definitely like the most dangerous section right here. All right, let's just sprint. Let's just run through here. So we'll definitely have to light that area up a little bit more. But here we are, back at the tavern. Well, this is perfect. The pathway really does it for me. And since it's nighttime, I do want to see what the ruins look like from Bear's Den. I do have to actually finish the fence around the tavern, but making our way to the top. Yeah, that looks really, really good. I think maybe next time I want to actually connect our house to the ruins with just like a really small pathway. Like literally just pathway blocks up there. But I'm really excited with how the world is turning out right now. And now what I want to do is actually head off towards the mines and grab the rest of the limestone cobble that we have stored over here. I think a little bit later on I actually want to complete that staircase in our home down to a mine shaft. That way we don't have to come all the way up to the mountain to get our resources anymore. Originally, I wanted to make this mine shaft over here because I thought it'd be kind of a fun little journey over here, but from a gameplay perspective, it is quite the walk over here. So I'm just gonna grab a couple stacks of limestone cobble in here. So with this limestone cobble, I actually want to make a fence around the tavern. But before we head back, I want to actually come over here just behind the mines and grab a bunch of leaves. All right, and that's our shears done with now. So now we have plenty of leaves to work with here. And my idea for the fence around the tavern is I actually want it to be a mix of stone walls and leaves to kind of create a shrub sort of look. And I just can't get over this world at nighttime. We can see Bear's Den off in the distance, and we can even see our ruined castle, which is really, really pretty. Oh, looks like the sun is starting to rise here as well. I'm gonna grab these pigs here just so we can start cooking them up when we get back home. Yeah, the world looks absolutely stunning during sunrise. So I think one of my favorite things about Conquest Reforged is we can take all of the leaves that we picked up here and put them in the stone cutter, and this will let us make the dark deciduous leaves that I'm a really huge fan of. And then with the stone cutter, we're just going to want to turn all these blocks into stone walls here. Something kind of cool about the fireplace here is it's actually made out of campfires, so we can throw our food right on the campfires here. Perfect. Our pork chops are cooked. I really love the Hungry Bear Tavern. It's just it's so cozy to me, and it feels very homey. I think on our way back home, we're gonna actually take our dogs with us. But before we head outside and build the fence, I actually want to take some of these dark stripped oak logs and turn these into fences. So kind of the palette we're working with is I want to start off with a layer of just cobblestone walls like this. And then the idea is we can throw our dark deciduous leaves right on top like that to give our wall almost a hedge little look here. And I don't want to do this all the way around because I want a nice blend of like our stone walls and some fences as well. So I think that looks pretty good just like that. And let's actually clear out this tree here. So right now I'm trying to think about how exactly I want the walls to go here. I think definitely around entranceways like this, I want the actual stone walls. I feel like doing a blend between the stone walls with the hedges on top and our actual wooden fences here is going to give us a nice little blended look. Because my whole goal with the tavern is I really want it to look open or have this open feel to it while still feeling secure. And I also want kind of a rear entrance to the tavern that I'll kind of maybe throw in over here. Eventually I'm going to have to actually make like proper archways into here, but for now I kind of like leaving it open like this. Maybe what we can do is we can do hedges every couple of blocks like this, just to kind of help break up the design of the fence. Yeah, whenever I build and play Minecraft, I don't really plan out my builds a whole lot. I just kind of go off of what I'm feeling at the time. And we actually have a chest left out here from when I first started off on this world. Yeah, I think I really, really love this fence design. To me, this is kind of the perfect blend of it being open while still being relatively safe. And in some areas where I feel like we did too much of the fencing, we can just kind of come in with our stone walls and simply replace it like this. Of course, we'll still have to worry about spiders, but this looks really, really cool. Yeah, I definitely prefer having my builds with variation like this. So now we have to actually connect our pathway from the tavern over here. Here's kind of the rear entrance to the tavern. Right now, what I want to do is actually give my tavern like a proper little entrance here. Right, there we go. Now we have a rear entrance that we can enter the tavern from. And now I want to do this side. Put a nice little archway here, and then we can throw in our gates. And to help make this look a little bit better, we'll just add some blocks on the side. And we have plenty of leaves left over, so we can just kind of throw these around. So it looks like there's some skeletons out there, but thankfully the tavern's relatively safe now, so we don't have to worry about those guys. And let's just kind of connect our pathway over here. Perfect. Yeah, this looks really, really cool. So just to help these archways look a little bit better, I want to add some stairs on top of here. I feel like that just looks a little bit better. Yeah, I really like this. All right, perfect. Now our tavern has a nice little wall and fence around it. So now I think it's time we actually head back home because I want to make a proper like mine shaft entrance. But before we do that, let's take our dogs with us. That way we can have some dogs at the homestead. I have plenty of stone walls left. So what I want to do along the pathway here is maybe add some just random little walls just throughout like this. And we can even put leaves on top of here just as little hedges. I think it would just be a nice little decoration to have some hedges along the pathway like this. And it's a good use for the extra walls that we have. So in really big open areas where I feel like the pathway is a little bit plain, I'm just going to add some stone walls and hedges on top. And I feel like this will just make the pathway a little bit more interesting, especially in big open plains like this. Alright, it's just starting to turn nighttime again. And I really like the pathway at nighttime, even though it is pretty dangerous. And looks like our dogs are taking care of some of the zombies for us. But we are going to have to be careful with that creeper right there though. Alright, and this is the last of our leaves here. Alrighty, we made it home, safe and sound. And both of our dogs made it with us as well. Perfect. Alright, let's lead these guys inside. And there's our sheep that we have here. Yeah, I really love the look of the ruined castle as well as Bear's Den way off in the distance. Now I think it's time we actually start turning this home into a proper home with a mine entrance. And I always love sitting down in the mud room here, kind of like throwing my shoes off, storing everything away for the day. All right, let's bring our dogs inside the house here. I feel like the dogs would be hanging out around here by the fire. There we go, on the couch and everything. So now I want to make a proper mine entrance to our home here. Just kind of following the same little pattern of a staircase here. Alright, there we go. Now we have a spiral staircase all the way up to our house. And this connects perfectly to the little mine shaft that we dug out the first night of the series here. And it looks like we have a couple of random little things in the chest here. So eventually I do want to decorate the mine a little bit. But for now, let's actually make this stairwell look a little bit nicer. I'm going to take some of these raw pork chops that we have and just throw these on the campfire here. And while those are cooking up, I want to actually hop into the storage room over here and grab our stone cutter because I want to actually move this towards the living side of the home. And I want to also grab some limestone cobble stacks here as well. And our pork chop should be just about done here. Perfect. And maybe instead of a chest here, we'll move our stone cutter right here. And what I want to do with the stone cutter is I want to take our limestone cobble and make a couple stacks of cliffstone cobble here. To me, these fit perfectly for the basement theme that we're going for. Now all we have to do is cut out the dirt and surrounding walls of the stairwell here and just simply fill it in. Yeah, I really like the idea of actually making this section down here a basement at first that eventually leads into a mine. And I also want to dig all the way down to diamond level so that way we can actually start getting our diamond tools back. Perfect, now this entranceway looks a lot better. And what I want to do is turn this into a proper kind of cellar. So for that, I'm just going to kind of fill in the walls here. It's definitely going to be a smaller cellar than the one that we have at the tavern, but it will be nice that we actually have a basement at the house now, instead of it just being a hole in the ground. And what I want to actually do is extend this out just a little bit, just so we have a little bit more space in the basement here. We'll have to actually make more cliffstone cobble here, but not a big deal. So what I want to do now is actually start doing the floor. I'm simply just going to vein mine it out, and then I'm going to replace it all with cobblestone. So now we can replace our door with the cliffstone archway like that. And now let's actually fill in the ceiling here. So I think for the ceiling, I'm gonna, instead of doing cobblestone, I'm gonna do cliffstone cobble for this. So to make this basement a little bit more interesting, what I wanna actually do is take our cliffstone archways and just throw these along the edges of the wall like this. And then this will give our basement like a rounded look, which I think will look really, really nice. This is pretty much what I did over at the tavern here. I might end up replacing the floor with wood because I feel like this looks a little bit too stonish and a little bit cold. So it looks like it's another beautiful night here at the house, and I'm really excited that we have a proper basement for the house now. Instead of having to go all the way to the tavern, now we have a proper little mine shaft and storage room underneath our house, which I'm really excited for. So another thing I want to turn these cliffstone cobble into is actually our cliffstone slabs, just like this. That way we can fill in the roof, as well as vertical slabs as well. So actually another thing I want to grab is actually our stripped dark oak. That way we can turn these into beams. So while we're down here, I want to actually replace the flooring with oak planks. I feel like the wood looks a lot better than it being cobblestone down here. That way it doesn't feel super cold and stony. And I'm trying to think of a way that we can actually make this staircase a little bit nicer. Maybe I'll end up having to redo this staircase and kind of move it somewhere else. So I'll just kind of cover it for now and think about how I want to do that. But the main thing I wanted to do down here was actually replace some of these archways with wooden beams instead. I feel like this just looks a lot nicer. And whenever I think of a cellar, I think of it having like wooden beams supporting it. Like, there we go. And now let's actually cut out some of these columns that are right on the side here. And what we're going to do is take our vertical slabs, place them like that. That way it gives our archways like a little bit of breathing room. All right, now what I want to do to make the ceiling a little bit nicer is I want to actually add a curve inward. So I feel like this basement has multiple layers of support. We not only have the wooden beams, but we also have the archways, the stone archways supporting the ground above us. So I really like the way this basement looks so far, actually. And let's throw a door in here. Perfect. All right, now we have a nice, very basic, functional basement here. So for this basement here, I'm just going to add some candles just to lighten up the room a little bit. And we can actually do the same thing in this stairwell here. I feel like the candles look so much nicer than torches. And the last candle, we can throw it right up here. Now our stairwell is nicely illuminated. It is a little bit dangerous since we have this hole in the center, but it's easy enough to navigate around. So my goal with this basement is I want it to be functional and decorative. So I'm gonna just start adding in some clutter objects down here, like these cloth covered crates, add in these different food storages here. And this is when I really enjoy mods like Conquest Reforged because of all the different clutter objects that it introduces to the game. And we can just kind of stack things around, sort of wherever we'd like to. Throw in a wine barrel in here. All right, there we go. I just added in some basic little decorations here. So I'm not quite sure what I want to do with this staircase, to be honest. I might actually end up digging sort of another one somewhere else. That way I can lead it better into the basement here. So I'm gonna have to actually get rid of the concave in the roof here because I want to add some shelving in the middle here. I feel like there'd be plenty of shelves kind of just down here. So additional decoration I kind of want to add in here is, for some reason I always see like medieval houses have herbs and stuff hanging in basements. I think this is to kind of help preserve them or keep them fresh. So I kind of want to just throw some of these down here as well, just to give the basement more of like a homey, decorative kind of feel. And I'm really happy with how this looks right now, to be honest. So this basement is going to be purely for decoration. And what I want to also do is kind of on this side, I want to add just a little cutout here with an archway that you have to kind of duck through. And I think this area over here is going to be, and I think this is going to kind of be the way I'm able to connect down to that staircase that's below. There we go. Perfect. So that's like a really crappy way to do it, but I was trying to think of the best way I could do that and make it easy on myself as well. So I think we're going to go with that. And then that leads all the way down to diamond level. And then I'm going to quickly clear out all this space as well. And this area is going to be my actual functional storage area. So for now, I'm just going to put up my double chests here. And then I can use this to store all of my stone and different objects. But yeah, I'm really happy with how this is turning out so far. All right, now with the basement finished, I feel like this is a proper home. And somehow an Enderman ended up inside the house. So we're going to have to quickly get rid of him. But that shouldn't be too much of an issue. There we go. That takes care of him. But yeah, it's a beautiful night out here. I'm really excited with how this world is turning out right now. So I feel like we made plenty of progress in today's episode. We completed the ruined castle, as well as our pathway through the woods here. And we even have a fence for the tavern now. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for subscribing. I'll see you in the next one.